Wife cheated on her husband at a business conference. For the past 4 years, my sexual rebound has sucked. I constantly complain to my wife Lisa that whenever I want to make love to her, she either sleeps in bed or says she's too tired. I remind her how much she used to enjoy sex, and now we make love about once every 2 or 3 weeks. Lisa always shifts the blame to me, saying, "If you went to bed at the proper time instead of watching games or movies until 11 every night, it's not my fault if I get bored and fall asleep." It's always the same argument. The words are different, but the content is the same. Lisa and I have been married for 12 years. We met our senior year of high school and dated all through college. We got married the year we graduated from college. Lisa had no boyfriends when we met, and she made me wait over a year before having sex with me. Our first attempts were clumsy, but after reading, watching movies, and experimenting on our own, we learned how to make our lovemaking exciting and enjoyable. I realized that a couple's sexual activity declines over time, but ours persisted for 8 years, and then suddenly it was as if it had come to a standstill. I had never cheated on Lisa, and I would bet my life that she had never cheated on me. I was at a loss as to how to solve this problem. One evening, a few months ago, Lisa and I had another argument about who was to blame for our sex life going downhill. The next night, I was watching a movie when Lisa came into the room, said she was going to bed, and asked me to join her for a little napping. I said, "The movie will be over in half an hour. I'll come over as soon as it's over." Lisa said, "Okay," and laid down and fell asleep. When I got into bed and found Lisa asleep, I started to get angry and feel sorry for myself. But then it dawned on me that this time it was my own fault. I figured that the next time I received an invitation like that, I better get over it, or our sex life might come to a complete halt. The next week on Friday night, I just turned on the TV to watch a basketball game. It was the start of the NCAA basketball tournament, and there were 2 games going on that night. The first game started at 7:30, and the second game was to follow at about 9:30. Both games featured teams that I had followed throughout the season. When the first game started, I heard Lisa going to take a shower. After the shower, Lisa called me over to talk to her. I waited for a timeout in the game and headed to the bedroom to see what Lisa wanted. When I entered the bedroom, Lisa was standing in her robe, and I saw that she had laid out on the bed her sexiest set of black satin bra and panties and thigh-length black stockings. For some reason, when Lisa puts these things on in bed, our love-making gets really hot. As I surveyed the scene, Lisa said, "I'm horny tonight and I want to make love." I said, "Okay, as soon as the games are over." Lisa replied, "No. If you want to have sex tonight, you have to be in this bedroom at 8 o'clock. I remembered that I had decided that the next time Lisa said she wanted sex, I should respond immediately, but these basketball games were important to me. I said, "Okay, I'll be here." And in the back of my mind, I thought I could stall until 8:30, which was about halftime of the first game. Then I could make love to Lisa and get back to the game, missing only a small part of the second half. As I started to head back to the family room to watch the game, I looked back at Lisa as she pulled her robe down to the floor. Looking at her, I realized that I hadn't seen her without her clothes on, with the lights on, in probably 2 years. I was amazed at how beautiful she remained after 12 years of marriage. I found myself in the hallway where I could see the TV in the family room and Lisa in the bedroom. Lisa had her back to me, so she didn't know I was looking at her body as she bent over to lift her bra. I was torn between the game and Lisa was starting to win. After putting her bra on, she sat on the edge of the bed and pulled on her stockings. After putting them on, she stood up, and the view that opened up took my breath away. I was on my way to the bedroom when Lisa turned and walked into the bathroom and closed the door behind her. I looked at the clock. It was 7:50. I went back to my game for 10 minutes. The game was getting very intense. My team was down by 4 points. I quickly became immersed in the game and lost track of time. With 4 minutes left in the first half of the game, I looked at my watch. It was already 8:30. I hadn't heard a peep from Lisa, so I decided that I would finish the first half of the game and then go into the bedroom and make love to her. With only 1 minute left in the half, I heard Lisa come out of the bedroom. As she approached the family room, I could smell her cologne. Not just any cologne, but the one I bought her for our anniversary a few years ago. Lisa only uses this cologne when we are going out for special occasions, like a birthday or anniversary. The reason is that we both find this cologne very sexy and only use it when we expect to end the evening by making love. I remember thinking at the time, Lisa doesn't wear this around the house. She's putting out her best tonight to seduce me. When Lisa entered the room, she was wearing a short black skirt that showed off her shapely legs and concealed her thigh-length stockings. She was wearing a black silk blouse over it, so sheer that her bra was visible underneath. I looked at her and said, "Wow, you look great. The half is almost over. I'll be at your place in 5 minutes. Lisa walked over to me and said, "You're late. That offer expired at 8 o'clock. She then leaned over, kissed me lightly on the lips, and left the room. I was puzzled by this, but figured I could work it out over break. As I started to focus on the game again, I heard the garage door open. I ran outside as Lisa was pulling the car out of the driveway. I walked up to the car just before she pulled away and knocked on the window. She opened the window and I asked where she was going. Lisa replied, "I told you I was horny tonight and wanted to make love. I gave you a chance, but you chose basketball over me, so now I'm going to find someone to make love to me." Before I could answer anything, she hit the gas pedal and sped down the street. I went back into the house thinking that she would really never do that, but then I wasn't so sure. I sat down in front of the TV, but I still couldn't get interested in the game again. I figured Lisa was just trying to teach me a lesson and that she'd be back in a few minutes to give me a second chance. But part of me knew that wasn't the case. Without realizing what I was doing or why, I took my car and started driving around the city. I had been to every bar and club Lisa and I had ever gone to, but I hadn't seen her car anywhere. I began to wonder if Lisa had a lover and was just using my watching basketball tonight as an excuse to get out of the house and go to his place. It didn't make any sense since Lisa had always been a homebody. She didn't like to leave the house except for dinner or a movie, and she almost never went out without me. She really didn't have time for affairs. I continued to wheel around the city for 3 hours. I even went back to the house 3 times to make sure she didn't come home while I was gone. I finally gave up and got home at 11:30. It occurred to me that if Lisa wanted to tear me away from the TV that night, it worked. I sat down in front of the TV and, barely conscious of what I was watching, tried to imagine what Lisa was doing. While part of me hoped that Lisa had just gone to a friend's house to give me a bit of a cookout, another part of me kept picturing Lisa in bed with another man. This vision was upsetting me. The more I thought about it, the more detailed the scenes I imagined became. At first I thought Lisa was just making love to a stranger, but after a while I saw the guy putting his hands on her breasts and then sliding his hand down her body. I started imagining her having sex with him. The weird thing was that the more detailed my fantasies became, the more frustrated I became. For some reason, the whole thing was turning me on. After a while, I tried to clear my head of these images and decide what I should do about the situation. I decided that I had 2 options. The first was to go to bed and either fall asleep or pretend to be asleep when Lisa got home, and in the morning, try to act like nothing had happened. Or the second, wait for her to come, find out what exactly happened, and then deal with reality. I decided to go with the latter. It was 2 in the morning when I finally heard Lisa's car pull up to the driveway. I turned off the TV and waited for her to enter the house. When she came in, I called out to her to let her know I was awake and where I was. She walked over to the archway leading to the family room and stood there. As calmly as possible, I asked where she had gone. She replied, "I went to the Marriott Hotel. There was a salesman's convention going on there, and I knew there would be a lot of men from out of town wanting to party." With difficulty controlling my emotions, I asked, "So did any of these men from out of town have fun with you?" Lisa replied, "Yes, several of them have entertained me." I could barely speak now, but I asked, "Did any of them have sex with you?" Lisa replied, "Yes, one of them." I felt an ache in my heart, but at the same time I felt sexually aroused. I asked Lisa, "You're only telling me this to hurt me because it really hurts. Please don't play any games with me. I'm going to ask you again, please tell me the truth. Did you have sex with someone you met tonight?" Lisa looked me straight in the eye and replied, "I told you I wanted to have sex tonight. All you had to do was meet me in the bedroom at 8 o'clock like I asked, and now we'd both be in bed sleeping, not discussing whether or not I slept with some salesman at the Marriott. As for the truth of what happened tonight, you know me. We've been married for 12 years. You were my first and only lover. What do you think? Do you think a woman who loves you more than any other man in the world would go and make love to a complete stranger in the Marriott Hotel?" I said, "No, I don't think you would, but the way you left and what you said left me confused. Can you forgive me?" Lisa replied, "It depends," and then pulled up her skirt. She turned and walked away. As she left the room, she said over her shoulder, "I didn't make love to him. I had sex with him. Can you forgive me?" I sat stunned, looking at her. I got up and went to the bedroom. When I walked in, Lisa was standing there in her bra and stockings, hanging her blouse on the rack. I grabbed her, plopped her on the bed, and said, "You're a cheater." And before she could say a word, I started caressing Lisa's body while continuing to call her cheater. Next, I started having sex with my wife and kept remembering her cheating. As I thought about everything that had happened that evening, I found myself getting aroused again. I turned to face Lisa and said, "Now that I've had sex with you, do you want me to make love to you?" Lisa replied, "Yes, please." I said, "Lisa, I love you. I don't think I knew how much until now, but I need to know." Lisa asked, "What do you need to know?" I replied, "Everything. From the moment you left the house tonight to the moment we had sex. I want to know what you were thinking, what happened, and how you felt while doing it. Please tell me everything in detail. I promise I won't get angry at anything you say. The actual events can't be worse than what I imagined, and in many ways this whole thing has turned me on more than I have in years." Lisa replied, "I'll tell you everything if you don't get angry. If you start getting angry, I'll stop. Agreed?" I agreed, and Lisa began the story. "When I got home from work today, I was really glad it was Friday. It had been a hard work week and I wanted to relax. As I was making dinner and waiting for you to get home, I started thinking about how long it had been since we had sex, and that maybe we should do it tonight. Thinking about it turned me on, and I decided that after dinner, I would shower and change into sexy lingerie to diversify things a bit. Now I'll get to the moment when I got out of the shower and heard you turn on the TV and that a basketball game was about to start. I called you into the room and told you that you had to be ready for me when I came in at 8 o'clock. I noticed you watching me from the hallway while I put on my bra and panties and stockings. That really turned me on. I went to the bathroom to fix my hair and put on an attractive wrap over my outfit. At 8 o'clock, I was hot and ready for sex, and you still didn't show up. I waited another 10 minutes, getting angrier and angrier by the minute. I wasn't getting horny anymore, just angry. So I decided to play a little game with you. I dressed in the sexiest clothes I could wear so I wouldn't look like a cheater and put on my special cologne. Then I pretended to walk away, hoping to get your attention, but you only half paid attention to me. The rest of you were busy playing the game, so I went ahead and drove the car out of the garage. I thought it had worked when you ran out of the house and banged on the window. When you asked me where I was going, I was shocked, saying I was going to find someone to make love to me, but you just stood there and said nothing, and I drove away. I only drove 2 blocks, then I stopped and parked. I waited to see if you'd come for me. I waited 10 minutes, and then I drove away. I was angry. I couldn't believe you didn't stop me. I drove around for an hour and then I decided to call you and see if I could get a reaction from you then. I happened to be driving by the Marriott Hotel and went in there to use the phone. As I was walking through the hotel looking for an unused phone, I heard live orchestra music coming from the main ballroom and went over to look. As I stood at the door listening to the music, a guy with a plastic badge that said his name was George and he worked at the conference came up to me and asked if I was a conference attendee. Without hesitation, I answered yes. Then he asked where my badge was. Remembering the business conferences I had attended, I said that the badge I had been given had my name spelled wrong and that I would have a new badge made in the morning. George said he was sorry about the badge problem, but that I should go inside, eat and drink, and enjoy the party. So I did. I got my drink and stood in the corner thinking about how you had let me down and started to get angry again. While I was feeling sorry for myself, an older woman came up to me and asked where I was from, and I lied and said I was from California. She introduced herself as Sally and said I should come over and join the group she was sitting with rather than stand in the corner by myself. I followed her over to a large round table where 2 other women and 8 men were already seated. There were only 2 chairs left at the table, so Sally and I sat down there. Everyone started introducing themselves. I was a little worried that they would start talking business and I would be exposed as a fraud. But everyone was all about having fun, and there was no talk of business. The people I sat with were very friendly, and I quickly felt comfortable with them. For the next 2 hours I talked, drank, and danced. After everyone had been drinking, it was obvious that the men at the table, being gentlemen, were away from home and wanted to have fun. As the night went on, the talking and dancing became more and more explicit. At one point, Sally leaned over to me and whispered that all the men at the table were hoping they could get me into their bed. At first it startled me, but then I was flattered that they all thought I was desirable. Late one night, as I was dancing to a slow song, my partner pulled me to him and I felt him start to get aroused. I decided to try to tease all the guys while they were dancing with me and see if I could get them all turned on. Taking turns doing a slow dance with each of the guys at the table, I started to get really turned on. Then I danced with Richard. He wasn't as quick to respond to my touching him as the others, but when he responded, I immediately realized that he was much more interesting than all the other men at the table. It dawned on me that I had to see him in bed. I had to find out how good he was. Sitting at the table after the dance, I realized that the only way I could see that was to have sex with him. So I decided that's what I was going to do. I have to admit, I wasn't even thinking about you at that moment. For the rest of the evening, I declined dance invitations from everyone but Richard. Later, when the host of the party announced that it would be over in half an hour, Richard came up to me and asked if I wanted to go up to his room for a drink. I immediately said yes. As soon as we entered his room, Richard came up behind me, pressed himself against me and put his hands on my arms. He kissed my neck and whispered in my ear that my legs were driving him crazy all night. Then he started caressing my body and my breasts. Then we had sex, and I loved it. After that, I got dressed. As I was leaving, Richard asked if he would ever see me again. I told him no. It was just one time. And I left. It wasn't until I was sitting in the car on the way home that I realized that in all that time, Richard and I had never kissed once. That's when I realized we'd only had sex. We hadn't made love. When I got home, I had no idea what I was going to tell you. It was your fault that I left home, but I knew that everything that happened after that was my own fault. I was afraid I was going to lose you, and I didn't know what I was saying. When you burst into the bedroom and threw me on the bed, I was afraid you were going to kill me. And when you started kissing my breasts, I got really turned on. And then I realized that everything would somehow work out. That realization made me ecstatic. And when you kissed me and started making love to me, I exploded like a Roman candle. The next morning, we both slept late. As we sat at the table drinking coffee, Lisa started telling me how sorry she was for what she had done the night before and that she would never allow herself to do anything like that again. I told her that I knew it was largely my fault. I said that from now on, I would watch less TV and be more attentive to her needs. Then I said, "Sure, if there's a good movie or ball game on and there's a business conference at the Marriott, I'll watch TV and you go to the conference. Then we will meet in the bedroom to discuss both issues." The end. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.